That's why a website has styling, but it still doesn't feel professional. And this is because design is more than just changing color. Design is about readability, it's about visual hierarchy and user experience. These are things you are going to be considering when designing your website. And today, you will learn how developers use typography and colors to make website feel modern. Welcome back. If you have been following every lesson and practicing, you are already building front-end development skills. And today we are going to level up our design skills. Now, have you ever visited a website that looks difficult to read? Maybe the text was too small, too crowded, or the colors looked bad. Now, that's poor typography. You see, good designs are meant to help users understand content faster. And you see, typography is the way text is styled and arranged. Now we are going to start with something simple. And we have been doing this before. And we are going to still start with this again. Now, if you look at this is our previous code. I have an H1 element here and a paragraph element here. I'm just going to continue with it. Let me start my server. But first of all, let me delete this challenge. We are not going to be using it again. Let me delete that. So let me go to my style here. Let me go live here. Let me start my server here. If you remember, I already taught you how to do that. You just install this and click go live. It's going to go live. And if you remember in our last lesson, what we did was inline styling. That's why you see I still have this style here. So let me just remove it. So let me just remove that inline styling. That's what we did in our last class. So now, what we want to do now is typography. Now we're going to style these two things. It's just very simple. The first one I want to show here is changing text color, which I know we have been doing already. But let's just still do it. Changing text color is just to put color like this. Then you put the color you want to change to. Something simple like this. See, we'll change our H1. We have an H1 element here. So we are trying to change the H1 element color to blue. So if you remember, we need to link this CSS file before it will work. So I'm just going to click link here. So I click link. You see, it just give me this automatically, and I find it's called styles.css. So I'll close this now. I'll just close this up. So like this now, you can see I've linked my style sheet. I've linked this file back again. I can see now I've changed the text color. And let's also change the paragraph color. Let us change it to gray. Now you can see I've successfully changed my paragraph color to gray. This color property just change. It just help us to change our text color. That's what I've been doing since, and that's what I just did again. There are different colors to explore from. Don't just see because I'm doing. You can also choose red. You can see we have different color you can explore. We have green. You can see. Also, we can also do something like purple. We have different color that we can use here in CSS. Almost we can use all colors are also available for us here in CSS. We can use that. It's one of the best way to learn CSS is by experimenting. And talking about that, we are going to style our background now. Now, I did something like this before when I target this body. If you remember, I told you that in HTML, everything that we want to be displayed in our page here have to be inside this body. Every element that is inside this body is what is being displayed here to the users. So now I want us to target this body element and add styles to it. So first of all, I'm going to remove this and I'm just going to target the body. Now what I want to show you is background color. Now background color can decide to put something called, okay, I did this before I did light gray. So let me still do that again, light gray. If I do something like light gray, you see I've changed the background color. If I do something like black, maybe I don't want to use, I don't want my website to be in light mode. I want my website to be in dark screen. I can do something like that. You can see now this is the typography we are talking about. You can see now that if I do something like dark here, my text that are also in black, that is also dark, is not going to display here. This is typography we are talking about. Now this is okay. We have to make sure that our texts are all in white. You can see we can also achieve this. Let me also put my p paragraph here. You can see if I also put my paragraph here, I also change the text color. Let me say gray. Gray is going to show. You can see now that my text now is displaying. Now I just want to show you that we can also achieve this here by putting it directly in here. In our body, our background color is going to be black, and our text color is going to be white. You can see that we can also achieve it by doing it like this. So this is what typography means: trying to make your content readable, trying to make all your content visual appealing, let everything is aligned and is readable. That's just what typography means. Now I'm also going to show you opacity. I know I've not shown you what this before, but I want to believe we already know what opacity means. But let's just show you. We can use this to reduce the opacity of a website. Let me just say it's 0.3. 0.3. You can see now that we reduce the opacity of a website. Opacity is just a property that specifies the transparency of an element. That's what I did here. If I remove this back, you see now that it will be displaying fully. But if I add this opacity here, I just reduce it and you see it's a little bit transparent. That's just what opacity means. It specifies the transparency of an element. Now, before we move into our next thing, since I'm talking about background, how we can change things in our background, I want to also show us how we can use an image. Here now you can see that we are using a color in our background. Now maybe you go to a where you are building website and you want an image to be your background. You want to use an image as your background. Now I want to show you that next. We are going to do something here. Let me remove the text. Let me also remove the color. Now we are going to be able to use image as our background. We are going to do something called background image. You can see we have it here. Background image. Background image. Then we're going to put our URL. You can see just like this. And in here now, I'm going to specify the image we want to use. Let me just say paper.gif. It's not going to work because I don't have this image in my file here. So what I want to do here, let me look for an image. Let me look for a random image that we're going to use as our background. What I did is that I just drag in an image I have in my system. I just copy it and paste it inside here. That's what you just did. You just go to your system, you click on the image, you click and hold it, then you drag it into your project, into your VS Code project. That's what I just did. So now that we are talking about background image, I want us to use this image in our background. So I'm just going to go here and I'll say classroom.png .jpg. So you can see now that we have got our image and we are seeing the image inside here. So another thing I just want to show is that when you are using image, a lot of image properties you can do. You can see I can just come here and I'll say background size. You can see I'll just say background size. Then when I come background size, I will just say cover. You can see we can do something like cover, contain. So I will just say cover here because I just want this to cover all my page. So you can see if I say cover background image size, I say cover, it just cover everywhere. This image is repeating here. It's showing 2 times because it's not long enough to cover this page here when it's in mobile view. So if we don't want it to repeat like that, we can still do something called background repeat. Then we can do something like no repeat here. So if we do something like no repeat, you can see it did not repeat. When my mobile screen, when it can't show it can't cover up the screen, it's not going to repeat. It's just going to show half like that. That's things we can do in our CSS. Let me show you, since we are talking about styling background. So now we're going to move into CSS color values. If you look at what I've been writing so far, anytime I want to declare color, what I always do is just to write something like this color. Instead I put just red or I put just green, I just write the color directly like that. So I want to show you CSS color values, different way we can add color. So before we do that, I just want to remove this background image we are doing here. So I'll remove the background image we are doing here. Let me remove this body entirely. Let me go back to my index here. So in here now, I'm just going to do something very simple now. I have H1 and P tag here. Now, the first one I want to show you here is the RGB. So the way we do use the RGB, when I say H1 here like this, then I open, then I'll say my color like this. Now, the way we use that RGB, the RGB stands for red, green, and blue. So in CSS now, we can specify this RGB color uses this simple formula. All what we are going to do, I'm just going to say red, green, and blue like this. Then we are going to open it like this. Then we are going to specify the color. For the red, if I say red, it become a red, green, blue, red, green, and blue. If I put change the color to be this, you can see now this now becomes white. This now becomes white. If I want it to be just red, I'll make this 0. I'll make this also. I'll make this also 0. That's just how to use RGB. You see the red, green, and blue. Each parameter just define its color. You can adjust this in any way to get different color. Using the RGB, you can get as many color as you want. For example, I can do something like this. I can come here. I can reduce this. I can come here. I can just do something like this. You can see using this RGB, you can get as many colors as you want. You can also come here. You can see you can adjust it here. You can use this to play around. You see that using the RGB, you can also use it to get different colors. I'm just showing you this because I don't want in a case whereby when I try to use this later on in this course, you'll be surprised. That's why I'm just showing you how to use this. So the next one is the hex value. The next one is the hex value. You are going to be using this hex value a lot in your project. You are going to be using this hex value. Let me tell you what the hex value is doing. The hex value is just doing RR, GG, and BB. This is what the hex value is just doing. It's bringing this RGB together, RR, GG, and BB. The first two is for R, the second two is for G, which is green, and the third one is for blue. That's just the same thing the hex value is doing. Is taking the two letters of the RGB and using them there. So for example, if I do something like, if you remember when I did full red, full green, and full blue, we get white. So let me just do the same thing here. Full red. If I do something like this, you see now what we get here is white. You can see what we got here is white. It's just white. Let me just try to change something. Let me give it another color. If I do FFA, let me just 500 of the A in, apply. Or let me just choose this one that is giving me here. You can see I've used this hex value now to get another color. You can also play with this around. You can see. You can see. So I just want you to know this because in CSS, most of the time, this is the hex value we are going to be using because this hex value is very accurate. For example, when a designer design and specify a hex value in his design, you can copy this hex value and use it anywhere. You can use this hex value when you are editing your pictures. You can still use this hex value anywhere in your project. You can also use this hex value there. That's why you see in color, in CSS color values, most of the time hex value is what we are going to be using. That's all the thing I say. Let me show you before we move on to our next lesson. So I don't want to I want to believe that anywhere you see me using hex values in this project, you are going to understand. Anywhere you see me using RGB in this project, you are going to understand. Not just it's not just by writing straight red like this or writing straight green like this. Sometimes we use hex value to specify the color and everything. So now we're going to move into font. We are going to move into font. Now, this text here, there's a way we can change this. I don't know if you have seen some websites where this font is different. Maybe you look italic or this font is totally different. In CSS, there's a way we can change our font, and that's what we are going to be doing now. Now, the first one I want to show you is, let me just, since we are talking about fonts, let me just target the body and change all the fonts and change the font of all the text that's in the body. Now, the way we change font is we just do something called font. We just say font family. Then I can see that it's giving me suggestion of different fonts I can use here. So the one I want to use now is let me just say area. Let me use this one here. Let me just use this one. If you look at what's happened here, you can see now that I've changed my font. This is not how it's looking here. Let me go back so that you see it. You can see the way my font is here, but I was able to change it to this. That's what font is all about. That's just what font is doing. It helps us to change our text fonts to make it look more beautiful in our page. So you can explore different fonts. You can just go here, you can explore different fonts. We have another font called, you can see all of them. You can see you can explore all of them one by one if you want. You can see. Let's try this. Let's try this Tahoma. You can see the way this one is looking. So you can explore all these fonts one by one. Font is very good. You can see now that this this our H1 now look more beautiful rather than the way it was before. That's just what fonts help us to do. Help us to make our website more beautiful. I know I've shown you font size before. Let me just add it inside here. You can also increase our font size. You can see, you can say 40. I've shown you this before. You can see now we can also increase our font size, make it big as we want, or make it as small as we want. So that's just things we can do when making our fonts beautiful. I want to believe we all understand that the px I'm using here, it means pixels. Now, I also want to show you font weight. Since I'm talking about font, let me also show you font weight. The font weight is just how bold the text is. So I can just come here and say font weight. If you look at it, I have a suggestion here. Now you can see I have different way I can suggest here. You can see we can just use bold here, but if you like, we can use numbers. I can say 700. You can see the way it is here. I can come here, I can say 100. Or for us to get a better output here, let's directly target the H1. Let's directly target the H1. Let me remove this and let me remove this font size. So you can see the font weight now is working. If I go back here and I put it to 700, you can see how it's looking. If I go back here and put it to 500, you can see. If I put it 100, you can see. If I go now and put it 900, you can see how the font weight is. So that's another thing we can do in CSS. We can also change the weight. We are going to be doing this a lot. Maybe when we get to our practical, after this session, we are going to do a practical and build a project. We are going to apply all these things we are learning so far, using it to build a very beautiful website so that you see how everything works when you are building a website. All the font weight is just doing here is making the text thick. So higher numbers make the text thicker, while the lower numbers, you can see it's reducing how thick the text is. You can see lower numbers is reducing how thick the text is, but higher number is making the text thicker, very, very thick. That's just what the font weight is doing. Now, I also have text align. You see, this text align controls how text appears. Let me just show you. You can do something called text align. If I say center, you can see what happened here. Now, text align this text in the center. It measures this. You see, it measures this from here to here and from here to here, and you make sure that this our text is directly in the center. That's just what this text align is doing here. And when we start our project, we are going to be doing this a lot, where sometimes we need our text to be in the center of our page. What we use there is text align. So that's just what I just did here. I use text align to push the text to the center. We can also explore more. We can do something like text. It's not just center we can do. We can take left, we push it to the left. You can see, we can say right, we'll bring it to the right hand side. So that's the things we can do with our CSS. Now, another one I want to show you is text transform. If you look at what I'll be doing here, text is just appearing the way we wrote it in here. That's how it's just appearing. So I just want to show you text transform. Let me remove all this. Now, still in our H1, we are going to do something called text transform. And you can see we have something called capitalize, we have something lowercase, we have none, we have uppercase. Now you feel free to explore this one by one, but the one I want to show you now here is uppercase. If we use uppercase, you can see now that we have transformed all our text here to uppercase. So you see, this is something beautiful we can do with CSS. We don't need to come back here all the time. We can just use CSS to change this text here to uppercase. You can try it. You can explore them. Another one I saw there was lowercase. See, so you see now we change everything to lowercase, including the T here that is uppercase here. But you see, using the CSS, we change everything to lowercase. That's things we can do with CSS. We also have letter spacing. Let me just leave it as lowercase. I'll say letter spacing. Spacing, you see letter spacing here. We can choose to space our letter. Let me just say 3 pixels. So you can see how space is in the middle of our letters. If I go back here and I change it to something like 7 pixels, so you can see we have more space in our letter, 2 pixels. So you can see. So these are the things we can do with CSS. We can edit our text. We can use CSS to style our text to look the way we want. We also have something called line height. We can do something like this. Don't worry, don't bother yourself about cramming all these things I'm showing you. When we go to our project, I'm going to use this a lot, and we all are going to see how all of them come together to build a website. So you can see, I can do something like 1.8 here. You can see I increase the line of the website. If you look at how it was here, you can see how it was there. But when I use line height, I increase the way the the line is. You can see more space. You can see there's more space up here, and there's more space here, and there's more space here. There's more space here. I just increase the height of the line. So that's things we are going to be doing a lot. We have to make our text readable in our website, and trying to make it readable. There are a lot of styles we are going to be applying to our text. When we go to our practical, we're going to see that better. And now that's all for now. But before we wrap this up, I just want us to do something very simple here. If you remember, we always do a little mini project at the end of every section. So that's just what I just want us to do here. So now I'm going to do something very simple here. Inside my body here, I'm just going to put a H1, and I'm going to say Vincent developer. So you feel free to write something else. Feel free to write your name if you want. I'm going to put a paragraph here, and let me say I am just write anything you want here. Let me say I am learning front end development step by step, and my on my website. In case you want to know how I did that, what I did is Alt Z, and you just make it wrap in your page and look. I've been doing that a lot. When I just do Alt Z, my text just wrap and show in my screen very well. So you can free to do that. Starting industry to look professional. You can see I am learning front-end development step by step, and my websites are starting to look professional. So let us just style this using some of the things we have learned today. Let us style this. The first thing I want to target here is the body. I'm going to first target the body, and the style that I want to add in the body, I want to add a background. Let me use background color. And since I've taught you hex, let me use the hex now. Maybe for now on, I'll be using hex when I want to declare a color. So let me just say F4, F4, F4. You can see I was able to make this a little bit. So I'm going to add the fonts family to, and if you remember, I showed you Arial. That's what I want to use here. Then I'll go down to the H1. I'm going to style my H1 now. I'm going to put the color. In my color now, I'm just going to say 1E 3A 8A. So this is the color I want to use here. You can look how beautiful the website is becoming. So now let's add our font size. We're going to add font size. We're going to add font align. All the things we did. We're going to add font transform and later spacing. So feel free to do that yourself. But if you want to follow, you can still follow along. So the first one I want to add here is font size. Let's just call it something like 42 pixels. Isn't it too big? Okay, it's not too big. It's because it's because I'm using mobile view here. That's why it looks as if it's too big, but it's okay like that. So I'm going to say text align now center. If you look at what's happening here, I've moved this text to center. You can see how beautiful this is now. I've moved it to center. So we'll come back here now, and I'm going to say text transform. If you remember, we did text transform, and I'm going to make everything uppercase. So if you look at it here, everything down here is uppercase. And the next one I'm going to do, I'm going to say letter spacing, and I'm just going to say 2 pixels. So you can see I add some little space in the letters. So the next one to do here is let's leave it like that. Let's style our P paragraph here too. So now I'm just going to target the P, and I'm going to style it. I'll just do the same thing. Color, I want to use let me just use 333. The font size, I'll say 42 pixels. Using the same 42 pixels make it too big. So let's use let's make it look small. Let's something like 18 pixels. So it's okay like this. So I'm going to use a line height here now. My line height here now. I remember I used 1.8 earlier, so let's still use that. Then let me also bring it to center. So let me say text align. Then I will say center here. So if you look at what I've done here, it's very simple. I just align this text, this recent developer journey. I'm learning front-end development step by step, and my website is starting to look professional. So it's what I've been doing so far. I want to believe you already have idea of how CSS works together. You can see this is how CSS works together. We bring all together, target the HTML elements we want to style, and we style it like this. Now with this, now you can see that we have improved our skills more. And now in the next video, we are going to learn one of the most important concepts in CSS, or should I say the most important concepts in CSS, which is the box model. And once you understand this box model, your layout and spacing will finally start making sense. And I will see you in that next lesson.